Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of Radiant Central, and I'm your host Natasha St. Michael, and thank you so much for joining me. So today I want to address a question that I receive quite often. I receive at least one email a week asking me what my view is on popular diets. I'm constantly asked what my opinion is or my view on paleo diet, on the macrobiotic diet, on the blood type diet, on the raw diet, on the vegan diet, on the low carbohydrate diet or the low fat diet or Mediterranean diet, South Beach diet. There's hundreds of diets out there, and I'm constantly asked what my view and opinion is on these diets. And a lot of people also ask me, is it really necessary to go on one of these diets? Do they really need to be restricting their diet so much in order to get the weight loss benefits or the health benefits from these diets? Could they just eat a healthy diet? And great questions. So how I'd like to start would be to just share my opinion on the popular diets today, plus also offer some suggestions, because I work as a health coach and I see a lot of patterns. I see a lot of what works and what doesn't with my clients, and it's fascinating to see, what really does work and really what doesn't. And a lot of that is contradictory to what these diets say. And I think in all, it's quite amazing to me to see how once we simplify things, how easy it is for people to lose weight and also to keep it off. And so I'd like to share some suggestions that I see that works for people and how people have gotten results. So when it comes down to popular diets today, I have to say the main strength that I see in what's going on today in sort of the diet industry and in the trends is there's definitely more movement and more popularity and more of a trend to be eating healthy whole foods, which is fantastic. Okay, in general, a lot of the popular diets today are really focusing in on promoting eating healthy, nutritious foods, real foods, as opposed to eating processed foods or pre-made foods or meal replacements, things like that. Okay, that there's definitely more of a trend to be getting back to basics and for people to be eating fresh food, organic food, non-GMO food, and definitely more education and information on nutrition, okay, which is fantastic. But the one thing with most diets today is that they have to differentiate themselves from one another, right? So on top of telling people to take out the junk food or take out the fast food or take out the processed food or the refined foods, they also tell people to cut out other food groups or other foods, or to reduce certain macronutrients. Okay, so for example, on top of telling people that they need to cut out the fast food and the junk food, and they need to cut out the refined flours and the sugar and the hydrogenated oils and the artificial flavoring and artificial sweeteners, and just take out all the junk food out of the diet, they're also telling people maybe to cut out grains, even if they're whole grains, or they're telling people to cut out beans and legumes or dairy products, or they're telling people to cut out or reduce fruit, or they're telling them to lower their intake of carbohydrates or increase their intake of protein or decrease their intake of fat, or playing with different ratios. And so it's kind of like, on top of telling people to totally change their diet to a healthier diet, they're also saying, you need to cut this, and that out as well, on top of it. And that's how they kind of differentiate themselves from each other and say they're going to save you. This diet is the best diet. It's going to help people lose weight and reverse diet-related health conditions, all of that. And every year we see more and more diets out on the market, all of them claiming that this is the be-all, end-all diet. And at the same time, every year we do see that the numbers keep going up, the rates of obesity and also diet-related illnesses and disease. Okay, that's just going up and up and up. And so there's not a lack of information, and there's not a lack of diets out there to help people, but people are not getting the results that they should be getting or that they're being promised. So what's going on? Well, my whole view is that before restricting one's diet so much, I believe that people really need to be working on creating a foundation with basic nutrition. Okay, and I feel that not only about creating a foundation not only just to be learning how to eat healthier and learning how to prepare foods and knowing what the healthy options are, but also to be doing it long enough that it becomes a way of life. That later on, if you want to try one of these restrictive diets, then that's fine. But it's kind of like, first start with just eating a healthy basic diet, a healthy whole foods diet. That's not cutting out any food groups. That's not playing around with the ratios of fat or carbohydrates, all that. Just first, cut out the processed food, cut out the refined foods. And what I'm talking about is, it's like cutting out the white flour, the baked goods, like the cookies and the cakes, all the sugar-filled foods, cutting out artificial sweeteners, artificial flavors, hydrogenated oils, cutting out anything that's processed, anything that's made in a factory. So when you go to a grocery store, like all those sauces, all the dressings, all the pre-made foods, all those things have been made in a factory. And they're filled with hydrogenated oils, they're filled with sugars, they're filled with corn syrup, they're filled with preservatives and additives and flavor enhancers and MSG and all sorts of stuff. I mean, most of these foods are not actually made out of food. They're made out of factory-made ingredients. And so the first thing to do would be to eliminate that stuff and just focus on eating real foods. So what's a real food? That would be like fruits and vegetables and nuts and seeds and beans, legumes, and whole grains and animal products and dairy products and seaweed and fermented foods, anything that's like a real food, right? You go in that direction and just focus on having that as your food every day, and do that for 6 months to a year consistently. Where you keep things simple and you're just like, you know what, I'm just gonna eat real food. Nothing that comes out of a factory, nothing that comes out of a jar or a box or is microwavable or pre-made, none of that. I'm gonna learn how to cook. I'm gonna learn how to make fast, easy, healthy food. I'm gonna learn how to make really delicious food. I'm gonna learn how to just eat healthy and make that part of my life that it becomes as easy as breathing. And what I suggest is doing it for 6 to 12 months, minimum, before even thinking about going on an even more restrictive diet. And once you've done that for 6 to 12 months, and it's become your way of life, you don't even have to think about what you're gonna eat, you know how to do it, you're not deprived, you're not fighting yourself every day, you're not dealing with cravings, you're just eating healthy, and that's your way of life. Then after that, sure, if you want to try an even more restrictive diet, then do it. Because then at that point, after 6 to 12 months of eating a healthy whole food diet and it becoming your lifestyle, is that if you go on to an even more restrictive diet to experiment and see what it's like to do a paleo diet or do a macrobiotic diet or do a low-fat diet or a low-carbohydrate diet, any of these diets, at least if it doesn't work out with that diet, you have the healthy whole food diet to fall back on, and you already know how to make healthy food. You know what gives you energy, you know what it feels like to be eating healthy. And it's part of your existence, it's part of your daily life anyways. Because that's where I see the biggest problem is that most people that go onto a diet, if you ask them what are they coming off of, what was their diet like right now before they're starting their diet, they'd be like, well, I've been eating a lot of refined foods, I've been eating a lot of processed foods, I eat a lot of food that's easy to make, that I just have to heat up, that food that's made in a factory. And then they're going from that, from a processed food or a junk food or a fast food diet to a super restrictive diet. There's no middle ground, that if this restrictive diet doesn't work or they fall off of it for any reason, then they don't know what to go back to. They go back to the junk food, and whatever progress they made on that restrictive diet or whatever weight they lost, it comes right back on. So if you make a foundation, then you can always fall back on that. That is your way of life. Whatever you do on top of it, great. And if it works, great. If it doesn't, you go back to what does work. And also too, in those 6 months to a year, if you want to try out doing a day where you do like paleo diet or you're vegetarian or something like that, Where it's short term, then do that, where you see it as something that's short term, that might shake things up. It's kind of like I know people that like to eat a lot of meat, but once a week they like to have a meatless Monday, and it's like a vegetarian or a vegan day. And every single Monday they have their meatless Monday. And then for the rest of the week they're eating just a clean whole food diet. And they've been doing this for years and they love it, because they like to cook and they like the feeling that they have when they're on a vegetarian diet for a day a week. But they don't see themselves being a full-time vegetarian 365 days a year. But one day a week they love it, so they do that. And therefore, there's no pressure to be on a diet, there's no falling on or off of a diet, but they're just having fun with their food. So someone can do a meatless Monday, or if someone wants to do a grain-free Wednesday, or a sugar-free Saturday. Be creative, and where you see it as something you're having fun with, as opposed to putting restrictions or rules on yourself. Because that's too where I see people gaining big benefits. Because it's short term, and it's not about winning or losing. It's not about, are they gonna fail? It's just about, I wanna do this for a day. I'm having fun, and I'm trying new recipes, and I'm doing something different. So that's something to think about. And I have to say that the most amazing thing that I see with a lot of clients that go on to just keeping things simple and just forget about being on a restrictive diet and just do a whole food diet is that majority actually lose the weight that they wanted to lose and keep it off without having to make the effort to do so, just by being on a whole food diet for 6 months to a year, because they're doing it consistently. Because that's what the drawback is of following any restrictive diet, is that if you can't do it over the long term, you're not going to get long-term results. You have to do anything consistently in order to gain the rewards from it and keep the rewards. So do you want to make it hard for yourself, or do you want to keep it easy? That's something you have to ask yourself. And I guess the last thing that I want to suggest, okay, and this is a big one, is to see an end to the diet, okay, and to be making kind of goals after the diet. A lot of times when people get on a diet, they don't see an end to it, and they get addicted to dieting. And I see this a lot where someone's been doing a certain type of diet, or they've been eating just a whole food diet for a few months, and they're like, okay, I did it. It's part of my routine, it's part of my life, I have no cravings, and everything's fine, and I've lost the weight, and everything's good. Now what? What else can I take out of my diet? What other diet can I try? What should I try this week? And it's kind of like they can't let go of being on a diet. And sometimes it's like, it's a never-ending process, and it's always about the food. You're always thinking about the food, you're always planning the food. And what I suggest to people is to think, okay, start making goals outside of food. That after doing a whole food diet for a year or 6 months, you're gonna move on to another goal that has something to do with food. That you're gonna see that in the future, once you reach your weight loss goals, or your goal of doing a whole food diet for 6 months to a year, that you want to move on to your fitness goals, or you want to move on to goals of learning a new language, or taking a course, or your goal of making more friends, or improving your social life, or dating, or see beyond the diet. Because a lot of times you'll get stuck in the food and in the diet, and what to take out now and what to do next. And it's kind of like, if you approach it that from the very beginning there's going to be an end to this, that you're not always going to have to be focusing on it, that it's just going to become part of your way of life, like breathing, then you can find a better and healthier balance and move on to improving other areas of your life. Because the one thing that I see the most is that when people really do get the weight loss results that they want and get the health benefits they want, it's that they're not only working on the food. The food has to be almost secondary compared to other things that they're working on and improving in their life. Because if it's just about the food and they're always thinking about the food, then they're always eating, they're always planning food, they're consumed with the food and the weight. But if they're like, I'm going to keep it simple, I'm just going to eat healthy and clean whole foods, and I'm going to work on this part of my life, and I'm going to try this out, and I want to get back into exercising, then there's a good balance. And their focus can be on many things. and they're finding joy in many parts of their life, and nothing becomes a stress. Everything becomes happiness and value creating. That therefore things start falling into balance and the weight starts coming off. So always think ahead. What else do I want to be doing besides the diet? And once I've achieved finding a routine with this, I want to move on. There's more to my life than just the diet, or more to my life than just the weight loss and all of that. Okay? To find that balance. Super, super, super important. All right, so I'm wishing you guys a super fabulous day, and I will see you again soon.